One of my passions is helping people understand the natural world. I believe helping knowledge to grow does even more good than trying to inspire people to be good. Why? Because most people already have good intentions. Most people already want to help others. Most people want to be kind and do good things for the world and make this a better place. What is most often lacking is not good intentions, but accurate understanding. Most terrible acts are perpetrated by people who believe they're doing good. Everyone thinks they're good, but not everyone is right. I enjoy visiting debate groups where people discuss the nature of the universe. Sometimes I encounter close-minded, dogmatic people, such as evolution deniers. Many of them fight with incredulity, as if their personal commitment never to understand something somehow makes science a failure. They demand evidence, but they won't really consider it when it's offered. Many of them passionately consume media that raises challenges against the theory that they hate, and they imagine that somehow, if only they can sow enough seeds of doubt in enough people, that science as a whole will just abandon evolution and switch to the theory that they prefer. These people can be immensely obnoxious. Naturally, people who care about reality grow frustrated with these people. So they call them ignorant, they shout at them, "Get an education!" They ridicule them. And very often they defend this kind of ridicule. They say it's deserved. Some people even believe ridicule is effective. Is it? I think these people have forgotten three very important things. First, no one learns when their amygdala has been triggered. From a neurological perspective, learning while angry is almost impossible because the inner brain overrides the cerebral cortex. Second, even if they could, change doesn't happen mid-conversation anyway. It's not even supposed to. Basic beliefs are important. Changing them takes years, not a single debate. And third, debate is not really even about swaying your closed-minded, dogmatic opponent anyway. Debate is about the lurkers, the observers. They are far more numerous, and they judge primarily based on tone. In their eyes, whoever maintains their cool the longest is the winner. So counterintuitively, if you want to be good at debate, stop trying to be good at debate. Just chill. Learn what you can. Try to set a good example. That's all you have to do. Ignorant people will be amazed at your debate skills. Now, why do ignorant people even exist in modern times? How can anyone think the theory of evolution is false and still claim to have a modern education? How can people be so devoted to blatant conspiracy theories and so utterly ignorant of verifiable evidence? Unfortunately, the answer is very simple. We just don't like to talk about it. These people have been defrauded. Admitting you've been defrauded is awkward. Not only did the fraudster take your money, they also took your dignity. To admit that you've been defrauded, you must admit that you fell for a scam. Many people will hide the crime, protecting the fraudster just to avoid admitting that they were stupid. And sometimes they will even continue to pay. But there is an even higher level of fraud that's even harder to admit falling victim to. In 2007, Daniel Dennett gave a TED Talk entitled Dangerous Memes. Memes are ideas that act like living creatures, reproducing as they hop from individual to individual. He suggested that religions had evolved alongside people to become a sort of parasite that promotes its own survival by encouraging devotion and emphasizing the utter importance of belief. These mimetic parasites defraud people, but they don't merely attach to your money and your dignity. They also attach to your sense of purpose in life. They attach to your friends and your social groups. They attach to your foundation of morality. And they often attach to your family. In order to admit that you have been defrauded by a mimetic parasite, you must be so devoted to truth that you are willing to sacrifice your dignity, your purpose, your foundation for morality, your friends, your family, sometimes spouses, and admit that you have been duped. That is a hard pill to swallow. Of course these people are stubborn. Of course they're closed-minded. Of course they're dogmatic. Look at what is on the line for them. Look at what they'd have to give up just to consider that they might be wrong. So, how do we help someone do something that they really do not want to do, something that is very, very hard? The answer is, we set an example. Nothing helps people see that something can be done more than seeing it be done. Nothing causes people to think, I could do that, more than seeing someone they respect actually do it. Examples are immensely powerful. No matter how clear, concise, or eloquent our words may be, our examples are more clear, more concise, and more eloquent every time. You always say more with your example than you say with your words. Now, the biggest mistake I see in these debate groups occurs when people try to fight with their words, but they forget what they are saying with their examples. For example, when someone says, "Evolution is a proven fact that has been validated by thousands of scientists." Now, these words may be absolutely right, but think for a minute, what are they saying with their example? They're saying it's okay to fight with certainty when you have no evidence ready to present. That's actually not okay. And it says it's okay to appeal to authority to establish what is true. That's really not the way we establish what is true either. If you have no evidence to share, you ought to be silent. Don't be drowning out the people who actually are trying to present evidence. Let me give another bad example. Consider when people say, "I don't disbelieve in God. I am just not convinced that he is real because there is no evidence." Think about this position for just a minute and what it says with its example. It says, it's okay to fight with your incredulity. And it says, I'm not really interested in considering anything you have to say because I believe anything you would say is not real evidence. I'm looking at you, lack-theists. You are the reason these people can get away with saying, "I'm just not convinced evolution is real." We all know why they're not convinced. They won't seriously examine the evidence. In their minds, there is no evidence for evolution. Just as in yours, there is no evidence for God. What they really mean, of course, is there is no evidence I am willing to consider, nothing I am willing to accept, or nothing good enough for me. That won't stop until we make the first move. Now, sometimes lack-theists say dumb things like, "You can't prove a negative." Of course you can prove a negative. One way is to find a contradiction. Another way is to observe that probabilities sum to 1. Thus, evidence for a natural explanation is evidence against a supernatural explanation. There is an abundance of evidence out there, and we ought to be talking about the evidence, not about our incredulity. The way to take the high ground is to show your opponents how it is done. Listen to them the way you would want them to listen to you. Only then is there a chance that maybe they will feel some obligation to reciprocate. Now, does this method really work? Is it really possible to sway a hardened, closed-minded, dogmatic person? When I was very young, I was infected by a parasitic meme. Now, I have a lot of love and respect for the people who infected me with that meme. They were doing what they believed was important. They could not have planted that parasite in a more fertile mind. It spread throughout my life. It grew, and it eventually began to dominate everything I valued, my dreams, my hopes, my fantasies. For 30 years, I devoted my life to a mimetic parasite. I wanted nothing more than to be completely devoted to that meme. I wanted to help spread it so that others could have what I had. I donated a small fortune in tithing. I served a proselyting mission. I surrounded myself with people who shared my beliefs. I married a devout believer. I served in volunteer positions. I taught and I testified with solemn words that I knew my religion to be the one true religion, God's kingdom on the earth. God was my closest friend. I felt that I had a strong relationship with him, one that I thought could never end. My testimony meant everything to me. But I encountered some people who set a better example. These people didn't just say that they cared about truth. They actually took the time to run experiments and to test things. They didn't just wax passionate about how right they were all the time. They put in the effort to study, to learn, and to become right. And when their positions were challenged, they were grateful. They wanted to be wrong, because being wrong was an opportunity to learn. I recognized something in these people. They had intellectual humility. That was something God would want me to have. That was something I wanted to have. And so I started trying to do it too. Now, some people will say that devout believers are too far gone, that they can never change. I am a living counterexample. People can change. All they need is a good example. That's why we need to be more patient with ignorant people. Not because they know a lot, but because they need our help. We know how to yield to the evidence. We know how to value learning above being right. And we need to help them with our examples by listening to what they think is evidence, so they might listen to ours. Thank you.